Iron Valiant has shown some flashes here and there, including a couple of big top 8 performances at major events, and it's definitely seen some play in the online scene. However, it has failed to establish itself as a top tier meta deck, likely due to its consistency issues. But does it have what it takes to crack the glass ceiling in the post-rotation meta? I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dig into some post-rotation Iron Valiant. The biggest feature that Iron Valiant has to its advantage is that Tachyon Bits ability, being able to dance the Iron Valiants in and out of the active, allowing you to then drop damage counters anywhere you want on the board. And this can help you just finish off smaller targets before they even get going, or soften up big targets for later. And that's definitely something you want to do throughout the course of a match. And then you want to end every turn with a strong attack to the active. So you just kind of ping here and there, pepper some damage here and there, and then land that big blow to end your turn. I normally would show a tier list here. However, Iron Valiant does not crack the sort of top tier lists over in Japan. I did find it still being played and still getting top 16 appearances in city leagues, but it still seems like a deck on the fringes. And it does still have some good things going for it. Tachyon Bits is still amazing. It's still a Pokemon that you can put in a bunch of different decks for some really cool attack combinations. And it now gets Iron Crown EX, which can help boost its damage, where you can actually use Iron Valiant as an attacker. However, there are still some things that hold Iron Valiant back, including the reliance on switch cards, which can gum up your deck and hurt your consistency. It's kind of not a great attacker in and of itself, although there's going to be a list on this video where we actually have Iron Valiant as an attacker. And the big one is the loss of Medicham V. Being able to take a KO while also taking an extra turn is no longer an option here, and that really hurts this deck. We already talked about Yoga Loop and Medicham V going away. Absolutely devastating loss for this deck. And it does lose a couple of other pieces as well, including Battle VIP Pass to help get your board set up, and Escape Rope, which are both unfortunate. Battle VIP Pass also kind of sucks because we do sort of have a substitute for Iron Valiant with Techno Radar. However, it's not going to be able to get yourself your Enteis and any other big attackers from the deck, so it's going to be harder to set this deck up going forward. I think Iron Valiant is technically worse for wear, but it does get some cool pieces, including Prime Catcher, and basically a whole new way to play the game as part of a future box. Prime Catcher is essentially cross-switcher as one item, where both players switch their active Pokemon with one on the bench. You get to control both of those switches, and not only does this work as a way of gusting up a target you want to hit, it also could just give you another way of moving a new Iron Valiant into the active and pinging for more Tachyon Bits action. So Prime Catcher working extra hard for Iron Valiant. Now let's look at some lists here. This first one got 7th place at City League in Kanagawa, and we're going to start with the Entei Valiant. We do have some other variants, but we're going to use this as sort of the vanilla list, and I will go through this one. I think we can go through these at a decent clip because this is largely a archetype we have seen before. We do have the Iron Valiant for spreading the damage counters, and Entei as our primary attacker to the active. Moltres is a nice single prize attacker where when we put damage on it, this can do 90 damage, taking out some smaller Pokemon or just getting a initial hit onto some multi-prize Pokemon to take out later. Radiant Charizard's an amazing endgame attacker, Squawkabilly to help refresh our hand at the beginning of the game. And then we see like a lot of similar cards before, like Professor's Research, Colress. The big new ones, we got Techno Radar in here now because we don't have Battle VIP Pass anymore. This will get us our Iron Valiants, but it's not going to get us Entei, Moltres, Charizard, or Squawkabilly, which is why we now have 4 Nest Ball in the deck. We still have a ton of switch outs, even if there's no Escape Rope. We have 4 switch card, 4 regular switch, as well as 2 booster capsules so that Iron Valiant can retreat for free. And we also see a Prime Catcher in the corner here, which kind of acts as another switch out. We also have 3 Jet Energy, so no shortage of ways to move in and out of the active. Our general game plan for this deck is we want to start with Iron Valiant, moving them around the board so we can drop some Tachyon bits, and then finish our turn with an attack from either Entei, Moltres, or Radiant Charizard, depending on where we are in the match. This second list adds in a larger focus on Gouging Fire, which is a new Pokemon we're going to be getting in Temporal Forces. And in a lot of ways, it's an upgrade to Entei V. It has the attack Exploding Flare, which does 260 damage, and this Pokemon can't use Exploding Flare again until it leaves the active spot. 260 damage is going to knock out every basic EX, every basic V, and it'll even get some of the smaller Stage 1 EXs as well, and we can boost that damage up with a maximum belt and bump that all the way up to 310, which is like VMAX territory, but pretty much any sort of Stage 1 EXs we're going to be knocking out here. And there might even be some Stage 2s that we could knock out with Gouging Fire with the maximum belt. And that's something we could pull off on turn 1. Yes, it's harder than Entei because it's 3 energy instead of 2, but between stuff like Magma Basin and Sada's Vitality, which this deck runs, we can theoretically get Gouging Fire up on the first turn. We still have the Enteis here because it's a little more of a reliable attacker, even if it does less damage and it's predicated on how many Pokemon are on the board. It's just a little more of a reliable way to get your end game or your end of turn attack off. This third example introduces Palkia VSTAR into the mix, and Palkia is kind of a little bit different from some of the other attackers we've seen thus far. It's an evolution Pokemon, and it's going to take a little more time to set up. However, Palkia still is relatively low maintenance. It can power itself up with Star Portal. It can also power up Greninja, and even technically Iron Bundle with Star Portal, giving you even more attack options than before. It is a tanky Pokemon that's hard for a lot of decks to one-hit KO, and Subspace Swell does a ton of damage for relatively little work. With only 2 energy, you can do upwards of 260 damage depending on how many Pokemon are on the board, making it an awesome attacker in this list. Iron Bundle is also here, most likely for its Hyper Blower ability, where you can force your opponent to switch out their active Pokemon with one on the bench, and then you can discard Iron Bundle to get it out of the way. Theoretically, you could attack with this using Palkia to power it up. However, the times that you're going to really benefit from Refrigerated Stream and stopping an evolution Pokemon from attacking, I think would be few and far between. This last example is very cool. It is our first take on a future box style deck, and this one's a lot more focused than some of the future boxes we have seen thus far. This one really keeping it down to just Iron Valiant, Miraidon, and Iron Crown. We'll start with Miraidon, as it's the first attacker we want to start the game with. Speed Peak does 40 damage, and you search your deck for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to your future Pokemon in any way you like. This is a great way of getting energy on that Iron Valiant, and if you've got Iron Crowns on the board, Iron Crown boosts your future Pokemon's attacks by 20. There is a world in which Miraidon can knock out things like Charmanders and Raltses, so taking a prize while also getting energy acceleration is fantastic. Iron Crown is a cool Pokemon here, which can boost Iron Valiant's attack, and it also can attack as well. Twin Shadows lets you do 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, and it pretty much ignores all effects, so you can even shoot through decks that have Manaphy on the bench. Though most of the time I would imagine you're attacking with Iron Valiant in this deck, because Iron Valiant swinging for 200 plus the bonus damage from Future Booster Capsule as well as Iron Crown could potentially get you into one-shot territory on even Stage 1 EXs and V-Stars. The ace spec of choice in this deck is Reboot Pod, where for each of your future Pokemon in play, choose 1 basic energy from your discard pile and attach it to that Pokemon. Since we're only playing future Pokemon, we could attach up to 6 energy across all of your Pokemon, which can get you an extra Iron Crown or a Iron Valiant attacking. We do have energy switch in here as well, so we can move that energy to the right Pokemon. We even have a Silene here to try and get Reboot Pod back on top of our deck, so we could do the Reboot Pod energy acceleration a second time in the game, which is absolutely nuts. I'm very curious to see if Iron Valiant can really work as its own deck without the help of Entei, Gouging Fire, or any other secondary attackers. There we go. That is a look at Iron Valiant EX. It's still kind of on the fringes of the competitive meta. If anything, it may have lost the step. However, the addition of Gouging Fire, potentially getting Palkia in there, and maybe even as its own attacker in a future box style deck is very tantalizing, and with time, maybe we will see Iron Valiant finally make it to the next level. But for now, what do you think about these lists from Japan? What do you think about Iron Valiant? Do you think it has what it takes to be a viable deck going forward? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In3rdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at In3rdPerson, where I usually stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Stream is still on hiatus due to, I mean, you can hear I cannot believe I'm still sick, but hopefully I will be out of this soon, and I will hopefully come back on the 17th, where we can get in some games just before the end of rotation. And check out the website, in3rdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.